Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse comes out relatively soon. And by relatively soon, I mean 2 days after this video has been posted. And with that being said, countless trailers aside, upon retrospect, I don't really know anything about this movie. And outside of the obvious, you know, different Spider-Men coming together to collaborate in the universe, that's definitely the wrong word. You can definitely tell I've been on YouTube for 3+ years. I don't know anything about the plot, which I'm low-key kind of grateful for, nor do I know the main thing that usually superhero trailers show off once they have the opportunity. I don't know who the fucking villain is. And because my brain is weird, it just got me thinking, damn, do I even like any of Spider-Man's villains? The answer is yes. And I figure for this Readus Relives, I'll go over my top 5. Starting with number 5, who has a very near and dear place in my heart. Shocker. Or as Spider-Man liked to call him back when he was wearing the black suit in the animated series. Shocker! You see, out of all the low-tier villains, or like the street-level villains that Spider-Man usually face, I'm talking like Scorpion, Rhino, Beetle, etc., etc. He was the one that always looked the coolest to me and seemed the most threatening. Which says a lot because, like I just said, he was one of those low-tier villains who were pretty much introduced one after the other in the early on in Spider-Man's career as like the same way as like Super Sentai and Power Rangers introduced their monsters of the week. I say that he's the most threatening because given what he can do and what his abilities are surrounded by, he's the most practical. Because you have Rhino, who's basically a big buff grunt in a rhino suit that can run through walls. That's super strong. And isn't a mutant. And then you have Scorpion, who, like I said, has that big ass thing on his back that has a scorpion tail attached to it. And you constantly wonder how he has such perfect balance every time he stands up. Shocker's costume is not only the most practical out of all the low-tier villains that Spidey has to face, but the bitch actually looks like it's made out of shock-absorbing material, which is perfect for what he can do. Not gonna lie, that's pretty much the reason why I just absolutely loathe the costume change they made for him in the Ultimate Spider-Man video game. But the one that they gave him in the PS4 game is beautiful. Just look at my boy. Just all grown up with his stolen technology. It's so great. Number 4, Mysterio. Because of course it is. Mysterio has the potential to be a very good villain in Spidey's mythos, and if given the right writer, he can pretty much be his equivalent to Scarecrow. And just fuck what you heard. I don't care what you have to say about his dome helmet. Because not only do I think that his costume also looks cool, but it also has the potential to like have like various badass looks depending on who draws for him. And no, I haven't beaten the PS4 Spider-Man game, so I don't necessarily know if he is in it yet. So don't spoil it for me. But at the same time, I'm also glad that if everything I've been hearing about it is true, that Mysterio is getting Sam Raimi in Far From Home when it comes out. Out of all the low-tier villains outside of Shocker that deserves more clout, it's definitely Mysterio. Number 3, Green Goblin. Now the reason why Green Goblin is number 3 and not like number 2 or number 1 is not because I don't think he's a bad villain. I was introduced to him in the wrong formats. Because most of my knowledge of Spider-Man came from the animated series and the Sam Raimi movie before I decided to pick up a few Spider-Man comics myself. My first introduction to the Green Goblin was the Sam Raimi movie. Like, true introduction. I didn't even know that he was Spider-Man's archenemy until I saw the movie. And the whole upbringing and backstory of Green Goblin and Norman Osborn is the reason why he's number 3, like in the top of the list, because I didn't know you could have more villains kind of like Lex Luthor and at the same time also have an alter ego until I saw Norman Osborn exist. Which sucks because I know, because you know, death of Gwen Stacy and all that I know that Spider-Man and Green Goblin have a very in-depth history that overspans like 50+ comics. in like the early life of Spider-Man. I'm aware of this. But outside of Sam Raimi, the way I was introduced to Green Goblin was through Spider-Man the Animated Series, and the way that Green Goblin was in Spider-Man the Animated Series just made me think that I was watching Skeletor with makeup. Your so-called father doesn't exist anymore, Harry! And I do have to admit, William Dafoe did kind of sound like that in the first movie. We'll meet again, Spider-Man! But that was better. You have to acknowledge that was at least a bit better. And this leads me to my number 2 favorite villain. Not because of the comics, but strictly because of Spider-Man the Animated Series. Hobgoblin. The one that I initially thought was Spider-Man's arch nemesis because I learned about Spider-Man through the animated series, bitch. And in the animated series, the Hobgoblin existed first. And then something happened and the gas changed the costume from Hobgoblin to Green Goblin, and it just so happened that Norman Osborn was there and affected by the same gas. And it even made more sense to me that Hobgoblin was like Spider-Man's arch nemesis because he was voiced by Mark Hamill, who voices Batman's arch nemesis, the Joker. I just thought that Mark Hamill just voiced arch nemesis. So when I learned that Hobgoblin wasn't Spider-Man's arch nemesis, and that was actually Green Goblin, this was before I saw the movie, but after I saw the animated series, I just thought that shit was a downgrade. Like, how are we gonna go from Joker to Skeletor? I don't understand this transition. But no, outside of that, the reason why I like animated series Hobgoblin that so much is because he was rogue as fuck. He gave no shits about Spider-Man. He gave no shits about Kingpin. Oh man, he was an OG from the get-go. But with that being said, I would have to say that my number 1 favorite Spider-Man villain is Dr. Octopus. Both for comics, movie, and animated series. It kind of falls into the same reason why I like Two-Face in Batman the Animated Series. I like the fact that Spider-Man / Peter Parker had beef or like previous history with Otto Octavius before he became Dr. Octopus. In my opinion, it causes for a better conflict in like both Spider-Man's character and in Octavius's character, or in the characters of other heroes and villains that share that same relationship. And also, I really like the creative choices that a lot of writers and artists make with Dr. Octopus. Like, sometimes he can come off as cheesy depending on who's writing, but he can come off as like very intimidating and scary depending on who's writing him and drawing him. And I think a lot of artists and writers realize that after Sam Raimi proved what you can do with the character and how you can actually make him terrifying and threatening. And if that's the case, then I'm glad that a lot of artists and writers took that to heart when Spider-Man 2 came out. But yeah, those are pretty much my favorite Spider-Man villains. And I don't see this list changing anytime soon. And that has to do a lot with the fact that I want more innovation with the villains that exist, but at the same time, as far as Spidey's Rogues Gallery is concerned, I need better villains, personally. Now, I know that you are furiously typing on the keyboards that there are better villains, you just need to read a fucking Marvel comic book. And I'm aware of this. I am fully aware. Which is why your homework assignment for the day is to write in the comment section below which Spider-Man villain that I didn't mention you think I would like. Or if you feel like sharing with the rest of the class which Spider-Man villains made it to your top 5 list. Either way, I'd love to know your thoughts. If you want to help support the channel, you can purchase official merchandise by clicking the card at the end of the video or in the link in the description down below. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications because I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and every other Friday. But until then, this is Readus 101. Class dismissed.